Those are live pictures from our gallery there. Now tonight, it's nearly 5 months since the Building Bridges to Unity Advisory Task Force was gazetted, and with only 7 months left for the team to conclude its mandate, there is little to write home about a team that was formed to spearhead the famous handshake deal between President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga. Issues of funding activities of the 14-man team are commonplace, even though the Secretariat is dismissing it as a non-issue. According to one of the joint secretaries of the task force, that is Advocate Paul Mwangi, the team is on course in delivering the advisory to the President as provided for in the Gazette notice of March 24th. The Building Bridges initiative took center stage at the 40th anniversary of the founding father of the nation, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, with both Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta rallying support on their unity pact. The two are, however, not oblivious of the opposition and doubts facing the deal. Their statements open the big story tonight. We're going to run that soundbite by President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Today, of course, they have talked about the deal there, the Building the Bridges initiative. We're going to run that shortly. Actually, let's listen into what both the President and the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga had to say.
I want you to understand that there is a much deeper understanding between myself and the Honorable Raila Odinga. A much, much deeper understanding. An understanding that is driven by a desire to ensure that we leave this country much stronger, more united, more focused than it has ever been.
Our father said, plenty should be found within our borders. That is the Canaan we're talking about. And that has eluded us. So when I sat with my brother, we said we should try to recapture the dreams of the founding fathers of our nation, unite our people. And that's the meaning of the handshake. And that is saying we are building bridges to cross River Jordan to enter the Canaan, all of us as all Kenyans.
It is Wednesday, the 22nd day of August 2018. A very good evening and a warm welcome to the program. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim. In studio tonight, I shall be speaking to Kisumu Deputy Governor Matthew Owili, Nandi Senator Samson Cherargei, who is joining the show live from Eldoret studio, Catherine Omanyo, the CEO of Kenya Women Agenda, and last but not the least, the national chairperson of Third Way Alliance Party, that is Miruru Waweru. But before I speak to them, earlier today managed to track down Advocate Paul Mwangi, who is the Joint Secretary of the Building Bridges to Unity Advisory Task Force. And here now is how our conversation panned out. Let's listen in. Lawyer Paul Mwangi, thank you for speaking to us. So, of course, we're here because of the Building the Bridges initiative. So, with regards to the task force, I'm sure Kenyans would like to know, since you are gazetted, where are you so far? Have you made any traction? Have you made any headway? And perhaps have you had any kind of challenges? Because we're getting a lot of speculative report out there.
Okay, first, after we were gazetted, which was the end of May, we spent a lot of time just putting up the groundwork. You have to unpackage, read your terms of reference, understand them, agree on that you understand what you have been set up to do. You have to do work plans and decide how you're going to approach dealing with the work that has been given to you. So we spent about 4 or 5 weeks doing that. Finally, we finalized that part of it. We are now moving into getting actual programs, rolling out actual programs on the ground. And we are beginning with the National Anti-Corruption Conference, which we hope to do in September. And then after that, we are going to start making our counter visits to take our views from the public on the issues.
Yes. Speaking about the National Anti-Corruption Conference, that is one of the conferences that you were supposed to have. It was in the second month. That did not take place. Perhaps can you tell us why didn't you have that conference? Were you getting any kind of challenges? Because we're getting reports again that the National Treasury did not want to facilitate the task force.
No, what did happen is that at the time we were putting together the conference, we were at that time unaware that there were other groups that had planned to do a similar thing. As you know, KEPSA is also planning to do a similar conference at the end of October. And there was the Dialogue Reference Group, which had also planned to do a similar conference. So we were requested to possibly to meet them and find out how we can work together so that they possibly come and participate in what we shall be doing. And if necessary, then it will be unnecessary for different conferences on the same theme to be held.
Are you saying the task force is well facilitated, that you're comfortable?
So far, we've not stopped the program because we have not had any finances. We have been able to hold our meetings and meet all the expenses that have been there on the works that we have programmed to do. We have made the request for monies for the conference, and we're waiting for that. But you'll understand that we were set in May, financial year ended in June, way after we were set up way after the budgetary cycle had started. Had ended. So we have to be fitted into the budget that has already been done. So that means we didn't just hit the ground with money. Money has to be obtained for us.
Can you perhaps share with Kenyans how much is your budget?
No, you know, when you do your initial budget, you're as ambitious as you can. But finally, you have to sit down with the budgetary officers, and they will give you the reality of what you're dealing with, and you scale down accordingly. So for now, we would have to wait and see what are the final figures that will come.
So we don't have the figures up to now?
Well, for the conference, we do have our proposed figures on what we want to spend. What we eventually spend, and it will be dependent on what is available for us to spend. And
now,
at that time, then we can talk about how much that has cost.
Now, one will say that this task force is supposed to bring Kenyans together to reconcile the country. But at the same time, we're getting, reports from certain circle of politicians who are saying, for example, NASA, there are some core principles who are record have referred to NASA as a moribund organization, saying that, it's an organization that is on its deathbed. Will this affect the task force processes and the works that you're doing at the moment?
No, because we are not about the political party politics of the day. Two leaders came together and decided to bring together their political capital to sort out 9 problems that they thought were what was bedeviling this country and has bedeviled this country over the decades. Yes, that could have its own political effects, but the work itself and the task force itself is not based on that and does not look at that. So if we come up with advice on how we think you should handle corruption, whether that will affect the politics or not will depend on whether the advice is taken and is implemented. But for now, we have absolutely no political angle in what we do.
So you believe no one has been blocked out at the moment?
No, because as I said, it was 2 leaders bringing together their political capital. They haven't locked anybody out in the sense that we work with everybody, and we shall be working with everybody who has something to contribute to the objectives that we have been set up to achieve. But that principally, it's the vision of 2 leaders who have thought that the kind of political capital they hold between the 2 of them can the destiny of this nation.
I understand that one of the issues that you've identified as a task force that affects this country is corruption. This is a country that loses about 600 billion shillings every year from its national budget. So how are you planning to go about that exactly?
Well, we are trying to see a way that is different, to do something that has not been done. And one of the ways that is going to come out is with the anti-corruption conference. That usually when we have anti-corruption conferences, what you do is you have people talking to the citizen and telling the citizen what corruption is, what it costs you, how it affects you. And we thought that it is time that the citizen is heard, and that it could get us further if people understood where the citizen is with the issue of corruption. Let the citizen be the one to say what corruption does to them, because they are the ones who live it and they are the ones who suffer it. And we are creating this platform where citizens will come to say what they would want to see. And also for them to talk to each other and find out how between themselves they can cooperate, even outside the structure that we have, in ensuring that they stop corruption within their societies. For instance, if people decided that they're not going to give the kind of reverence that we give to people who have involved in corruption, that we can have a social pressure against people engaging in this vice.
With the current progress you're making, can you promise Kenyans that within the 1 year time frame that you've been given, you're going to be able to come up with some tangible report?
Yes, without doubt. Without doubt. We are just in the second month. Within another month, that in October, we will start our county visits. I think that would take about maybe 1 to 2 months. And once you have those views, then we already be possibly in the 5th, 6th month. We still have now 6 months to begin to look at those issues, at the views that we have received, and start compiling them into a report.
Yes. Now that we don't have a final figure with regards to your budget, there are critics out there who are saying, how different is this task force from, the national accord that we had back in the year 2008?
Because I think this is the first time we're taking a critical look at our problems, and taking that look by first taking a look at ourselves. And that is the approach we are taking, that it's not enough to just say we are putting up laws to tackle ethnicity. Let's begin by understanding how have we brought up ourselves this ethnicity, how have Kenyans played towards it, whether they be the leaders or be the, and how can we come together to tackle that problem. We are beginning from the point that very many issues, especially if you look at something like corruption, we have all the laws, we have all the regulations, we have all the institutions, we have changed leadership in all those institutions many a time, yet we don't seem to get anywhere with that, or it keeps getting worse. Our work is to look at what is that one thing that we are not getting right. We have ethnicity, we keep talking about ethnicity, we condemn it, but we still practice it, and it keeps getting worse per the year. So this task force is supposed to look for that one thing, or those several things that we possibly have ignored over the years as we tackle these problems.
So at the moment, you've not yet had any kind of obstacle within the government. Can you perhaps put that on record straight?
No, we've not had any obstacles. As I said, we have been able to finance every program that we have taken up. Yes, we of course will have our challenges, and I said one of the challenges, of course, is the fact that we did come into existence way after the budgetary cycle had already been completed, the preparation process. And of course, when you are operating within a bureaucracy, there will always be bureaucratic challenges, and that is normal for everyone. I wouldn't say it is something that is very particular to us, but we push like we have to push in every bureaucracy, and we shall get there.
One final question, Wakili. Now that we have the task force in place, we expect the final report after 8 months, is it? Because you have the 1 year time frame. Do you think this...
Let's say the one, let's play with the 1 year.
The 1 year. Do you think this is going to, give Kenyans some sort of a solution to all the problems we've had, the negative ethnicity, corruption, and all these issues?
It definitely will, because I don't, for instance, know any instance in which Kenyans have come together as citizens to discuss corruption and as something that is affecting them and the meet as a brotherhood and deal with it. And that also happens with issues like ethnicity, that we need to talk out and say the things that are never said, or we always have our leaders and experts and everybody telling the citizens. So I believe this approach is very, very different. And it has the benefit of the fact that it is supported by two most influential politicians in Kenya, who would be able to, between them, work towards implementing all the solutions that are recommended to them. Yes.
Thank you very much for speaking to us, Wakili. That is Advocate Paul Mwangi there speaking to me earlier, where he laid fears that the handshake is in a limbo. Let's now take a quick recap of the mandate of the Building Bridges to Unity Advisory Task Force. They were gazetted, I believe, like 4 or 5 months ago. There you go. One of their duties is outline reform proposals for each challenge area, propose collaboration mechanisms among institutions, and make practical interventions to entrench integrity. And then one of their duties is also hold meetings for proper discharge of functions, solicit and consider written memoranda from public, and carry out research as may inform its mandate. Of course, they're going to touch on many issues according to the Wakili there. They're going to deal with matters corruption, matters negative ethnicity. The list is long. There about 9-point agenda, I believe. In studio, once again, I have Kisumu Deputy Governor Matthew Owili. Senator Samson Cherargei, I believe, is going to join us shortly from Eldoret. Yes, he is there in our studio. And then we also have CEO of Kenya Women Agenda, Catherine Omanyo, and National Chairperson of the Third Way Alliance Party, that is Miriru Waweru. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the program. So let me begin with the National Chairperson of Third Way Alliance. Coincidentally, they also had a statement that was very vocal with regards to the Building Bridges Task Force. And let me begin with you. And if you heard what the president earlier said today, he talked about, the handshake, saying that the handshake has a deep understanding between him and Raila Odinga. An understanding, he says, that is driven by the desire to ensure that they leave this country much stronger, more united and more focused than it has ever been. But in your statement as the Third Way Alliance, this is what you had to say with regards to the task force, that it's amorphous, duplicitous, directionless, confusing and unconstitutional body. Basically, you've dismissed the entire task force. One will ask, on what grounds?
In fact, to correct what you have actually said is we have not dismissed the handshake. What we have done is we wrote an advisory opinion to the head of civil public service, Joseph Kinyua, stating our position after thoroughly and critically analyzing what has actually been, how the task force on the building bridges has been founded. Because we have found out, we gave out 7 cogent reasons why we think that the task force should be gazetted, as it has no basis in law and should actually be disbanded any time from now. We've requested Joseph Kinyua to give us a response within 7 days so that we can determine our next course of action. Among the reasons that we have cited are, one, we have explained that once you read the joint communique that founded which was actually referred to in the Gazette notice that was published by Joseph Kinyua, it refers to that joint communique, which was signed undated. It was actually not dated, that joint communique, and it's signed by His Excellency the President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. And we feel, when you look at the last statement, how it will be implemented, they state that it states that they will find a way of implementing their shared objectives. We really feel that in this country, where even principles like of public participation have been used to create even our constitution, 2 individuals cannot go and sit somewhere, write an agreement which will bind the rest of us without public participation.
So you still hold on to the idea that the task force is directionless and duplicitous, all those comments. I understand.
Correct.
Very generous.
I'll continue. I would explain as we continue.
Yes. Let me before you continue, let me engage Samson Cherargei, that is the senator there. Senator, I believe you can hear me. You've heard the part of the statement by the Third Way Alliance. I'd like to hear your point of view with regards to the task force first.
I think the handshake has been good for the country, especially when it was done in the interest of unity, bringing peace and building bridges across the country. But some of us have been having reservations on its intention and aim. it is very unfortunate because I didn't see in the budget the allocation to the task force, and therefore the task force has remained amorphous. I want to agree with that way Alliance that the task force has remained amorphous and directionless because they don't have resources to carry either of their mandate that the president and the former prime minister did sign. And I want to believe that these are some of the issues that we should have agreed. Another aspect, Ibrahim, is that on the issue of we need a legislative or a legal framework where these issues can be, so that, you know, government money cannot be released where there is no legal framework that has been provided for. Despite that the MOU or the memorandum that the president and the former prime minister wrote about has good intentions, but how to implement it, unfortunately, I want to agree with that way Alliance that it is directionless. It is not. It is very unfortunate that task force should not even be in place.
So Senator Cherargei, are you saying the task force? Yes. Are you saying the task force is directionless based on budgetary issues? Because this is a task force meant to, you know, bring this country together, reconcile the country, in fact, especially after the election. We've seen what has been happening after the election.
For example, Ibrahim, what is the essence of this task force if the DPP Nordin Haji and DCI Kinoti are doing very good in fighting corruption? Do we need a task force to fight corruption? No, we don't need. We need to empower the commissions and the creations of the constitution that are already in place to fight such thing as corruption. We have the NCIC on issues of cohesion.
But
so
we are yet,
essentially,
Senator, we are yet to see any major conviction. I think we should agree on that. But let me bring in Deputy Governor Matthew Owili. You've heard Senator Cherargei's point of view there. He has some reservation with regards to with regards to the task force. I'd like to hear your point of view.
Thank you, Ibrahim Yusuf, for having me on the show. To begin with, I want to thank our two leaders, His Excellency President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta and His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga, for putting back their personal interests for the sake of this country. I take great exception to the view of the Third Way Alliance that two individuals sat down to agree on what we now refer to as the Golden Handshake. I want to let him know that the two great leaders are not just two individuals. I mean, we all know the constituency that they control in this country. As a matter of fact, President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is the elected president of Kenya. And so if he speaks and if he does anything, really, that should be taken to mean that he's doing it on behalf of the country because we elected him. But I think, Yusuf, a little history may suffice in this regard. You know, as a country, we have a history. We know where we are coming from. We know where we are. Unfortunately now, because of the handshake, a new republic is actually within reach. But I want to just mention three aspects of our history that brings us to the point where we are today. You see, at independence, we were one united country. At that point in time, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was given the opportunity to lead this country with Kenyatta in detention. He did not accept that offer and said we will have no independence without Kenyatta. At that point in time, he still knew that Kenya had tribes, but the tribe Kenya was more important than any other tribe, and that's what we have today. Yusuf,
we appreciate that bit of history, Governor Owili, but let me give Catherine the last word here. I've heard all of you, of course, as far as your point of view is concerned. Catherine, I'd like to give you the last word. Don't you think it's a bit prudent, perhaps, to give the task force a bit of time for them to conclude their report and then perhaps criticize it later?
It is a process. Everything that is happening today needs time. And you cannot just wake up one morning and say, now we have attained peace or stability, or now there is no war. Everything is a process. And there are people who remain unteachable from infancy. People forget very fast. The country had lost its leg and an arm because of no, signs of anything settling, especially after 2017 elections. the two coming together, this handshake to me was a big hope to Kenyans. And to me, it should continue happening, and the task force should be given time to do its mandate. I think where there is a problem in this handshake thing is, for example, if I said, if you see your best friend giving your wife a very expensive present, then you start being suspicious. I think the other principles of NASA or others who also participated in the last elections were supposed to come on. But you cannot just come from the initial stage. I think people should be patient and wait to come in. I think everybody in Kenya, from the villages all the way to the cities, should participate in building peace, bringing conducive environment for us Kenyans to bring up ourselves, come together, pull up ourselves and start again. Everything is just okay, but people lack patience and they lack direction. And I think it's a mandate of every Kenyan to participate in being part of the solution to our problems.
Yes.
I say this because some people are waiting for funding. I'm just hearing people saying there's no funding, there is no legal. If you really love your country, and you really want your country to be stable, for it to move forward, start by asking yourself, what is my part in this? With or without money, Kenya is richer than other nations that have been crawling, like Sierra Leone, and had no funds, and they made it. So even us, we do not need to wait for funds to do anything. And we've grown. We are maturer than many countries that look upon us as their mentors. We are embarrassing ourselves.
Yes, Catherine, I think you've delivered a point of view. We're going to continue this discussion even at a time when the Third Way Alliance has, of course, expressed its reservation, saying that this is a personal agreement between the President of Kenya and an individual, referring to former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And of course, one of the other issues they raised is that these task forces is going to usurp, the role of other independent institutions. And of course, the President had something to say with regards to that. We're going to listen to that soundbite. But first, we're going to take a very short break. We'll be right back. Stay with us.